Today we're going to be talking about Vectorworks, viewports, and sheet layers. So let's jump right in. In a previous lesson, we talked about the distinction between design layers being where we do most of our drafting and sheet layers being where we go to kind of lay out and print all of our final drawings. So over here in the navigation, you'll see we have all of our design layers are in here. We have all of our classes in here. Then this third one is our sheet layers. So right now I have no sheet layers set up. What we can do is just right click in here and new. So this first sheet layer, I'll leave it as sheet number 1, and I will call this stairs, because what we're going to be doing is printing out some stuff for this little set of stairs I've made. So this is our sheet layer. What this is basically, this is the actual piece of paper that you're going to be printing on. So if you're going to be printing at a standard printer in your desk, an 8.5 by 11 inch, then you can set it up as that. If you're going to be printing something that's going to a big plotter, you can do that as well. Let's go ahead and take a look here at how we would do that. Up in File, come on down to Page Setup. And in here you can set the size of your paper. Here you can do, I use this a lot because we have an 11 by 17 printer here in-house. But if you're going to be doing something large scale that's going to a big shop, you can use D. Or you can just, again, 8.5 by 11. Let's stick with that for now, just because it's a known entity. So that is now the size of our page. I can also change that to landscape or portrait as well in that same area. So one thing to note, everything that you draw on a sheet layer is going to be a 1-to-1 scale. So if you draw something a foot long, it's going to show up as a foot long on here. You really can't scale. We do that scaling through viewports. So let's go back here to our design layer. And let's look at these stairs. This is where we're going to start. We have painstakingly drawn this set of stairs, and we want to send out some dimensions and some looks to the shop. So what we do here is create a viewport, which is basically, it's like holding up a camera and just taking a picture of your piece. So we can look at it from the top, we can look at it from the front, we can look at it from the right, we can look at it from the left. So these are all the different views that we want to compile into our final document, right? So what we actually do, let's go back to top. We'll go to View, and we'll just go to Create Viewport. It'll ask us all sorts of stuff. For example, where do we want to put this? So we'll take a picture, but we got to dump that picture somewhere. We're going to dump it onto sheet layer 1, stairs, that we just created. And then all this other stuff, I just kind of leave. Scale, we can play with, I would say probably 1/2 inch. And then I'll leave right now up here, display settings. We want this picture to be from the top. And right now it's set as wireframe. We can leave that for now as well. We can always go back and change these once we've established the viewport. Click OK. And it will take us now onto our sheet layer. So from here we can move this view wherever we like on our page. It's got a little drawing title on here. We can come over and we can change that. So let's call this top view. Sure. And you'll see on here it reflects the scale, it reflects the title and everything. If you don't like those little titles, you can get rid of those. You can jump in and actually just delete them. But I'll show you how to get in and edit annotations shortly. So this is our top view. Now, if we wanted to go back to our design layer, okay, so let's take a look at this now from the right. Set it up so that we're looking at the right side, and you can do that right up here. And we'll go to View, Create Viewport. View from the right, we want this to be a wireframe as well. Or actually, ultimately, we're probably going to want it as inline. And make sure that we're in 1/2 inch. And make sure it's going to be dumping onto our stairs sheet layer. Click OK. And there is our right view. We've got our top view, and our right view. Now, another thing you can do is actually just copy and paste these. So we've already created this snapshot, right? I can just Control-C, copy that, and paste it. Only now I want to look at it from the front instead of from the top. Instead of creating a whole new viewport, I can just change what I'm looking at over here. And I want to look at this from the front. There we go. Now it's a little mixed up because the crop of the viewport is a little funky, but we can get in and we can edit that. So if you double click on any of these viewports, it'll bring up the option to edit either the annotations or the crop. Let's actually play with annotations first. Let's go ahead and edit that. Okay, so now I can move this down where I want it to be. And I could add dimensions in here. I'll get to that in just a moment. And I can also edit the crop. So if I double click, edit crop, and you just draw the part you want to see. So I can copy this again, paste it again, and this time we want a left view. Now you'll see, because of the crop, I'm only getting a little bit of the picture here. So I need to double click and edit the crop again. And keep it nice and tight. And I want to edit this annotation just to pull this over under the drawing. Again, for something like this, you probably don't need all of these titles and such, but you can if you want. So here we're starting to get all of our little viewports put together, right? We're getting a pretty good view of what this piece is going to look like. A little bit of housekeeping. What you want to do is make sure that all of your pieces line up. So I'll snap it here to make sure that they are lined up, and then I'll just hold shift and drag it down. Same thing, I want these to be on the same plane, so I'll drag it to there and just pull it off. So now everything is lined up nice and tidy. I can grab all of these and just position them a little bit better on my page. Something else you can do is actually isometric views. So let's copy this and let's change this to our isometric view. Let's look at it that way. Now again, you'll see this little orange and red line around it. That just means you need to update. And this place. So just bring that under there. There we go. Now, again, more house cleaning. You would go in and you can change all of these titles. So this would be right. This guy here would be left, and so on. And that right there is what your finished page will look like. The nice thing about viewports, if you're doing viewports like this, is that if you change this stair unit, all of these will reflect that change. So if we go back in here now to stairs, and let's push this down. So it's just a 2-stair unit now. If we go in to our sheet layer, you'll see they have all these boxes. That means you need to update your drawings. You can click on each one and click update. Or if you have multiple viewports on a page, you just come up to view and you can go update all viewports. And there we go. All of your viewports have now been updated to reflect that change. So the beautiful part of that is if you're going through and you're building a set, you make one little change, you don't have to go back and do all of the formatting work again. Now again, we also talked in class a little bit about title blocks. You can add a title block onto this page as well. And what you want to do is go down here to this dimensions notes right here, and you'll see a title block border tool. So if you select that, you'll see it kind of has a stamp overlaid. So you just kind of click there in the middle of your page and it will stamp that title block in there. Now, that is a big, bulky title block for such a simple thing. But you'll see it has all the different information you could possibly need in it. You can change this. So if you go to title block border settings, you can get in and you can manipulate all of this. Sheet border, for example, is just way too thick for such a small piece of paper. So what we're going to do actually is just convert this to unstyled, or you can pick one of these other options. We'll go with this really simple one. So it's got just a little bit of detail down there. If we go convert to unstyled, now we can get in and we can mix things up a little bit. I'm going to make all of these 1/8 inch so the margins are not so big. Okay, so that's a little cleaner title block. And you can modify this to say anything you want it. I've given you a couple of different examples of title blocks and the pertinent information that must be on all of the title blocks in class, so please reference that. But that's how you get to a final drawing. Now, one of the things you'll need to do once you're in here is actually dimension your drawings. So we have a couple of different tools for that. They're up here in your basic tool palette. The main ones you're going to use are the constrained linear and the unconstrained. You can also do angles, radius, and diameter, things like that. But these are the main two we're going to use. So if you were to actually grab this and just start dropping dimensions on here, you'll notice a couple things. One, you click on one corner, click on the next, and then you pull it out, and there's your dimension. Now, you'll notice this says that this piece is 1.5 inches, which is incorrect. We know it is much larger than that. The problem, anything that happens in this sheet layer is in 1:1. So if you were to print this out, this would indeed be 1.5 inches. So the problem here is we're not doing our dimensions inside the viewport. We're doing them outside of the viewport. So let's delete that. Double click and go to annotations. Now that we're inside here, if we were to grab that, 3 foot. That sounds much better. And 1 foot. And you can dimension all of your stuff this way. And once you're done, just click exit. There are a couple of different options. Let's go in and take a look at this one. So there are other options. Again, with any of your tools, there are different modes. So you can do a chain mode or you can do a baseline mode. Let's try this chain mode and show you what that does. And then just drop another one there and double click if you're using one of these other modes to end it. If you were using chain mode, it would look like that. So those are some of the dimensions you can use. But this is where you will be doing all your dimensions for your drawings, is here in the sheet layer. And again, if you were to change anything in here, let's make this a little shorter. Let's grab my little push-pull. And we go back. Update all of our viewports. You'll see we'll have to go in and redimension, but it did change all of this stuff. So double click. And so on. This one is good if you were measuring an angle. Everything on here is pretty right angle, but that one will give you a distance like that if you have angled walls going on. There is another option for creating viewports, multiple viewports. Let's go ahead and delete all these. Let's start over. So we'll go back to our stairs, and our stair unit is getting sadder and smaller. That's okay. So if we wanted to do multiple viewports of this guy, what we do is go up to View and create multiple viewports. From here you get to select all the ones that you want included. We'll do them all in 1/2 inch, front, top, right, left, and an isometric. Sure. Click OK. Now these actually showed up on a new sheet layer. So that's one of the things with using the create multiple is you have far fewer options in terms of what to do, but it's easy enough just to grab all of those, copy them, and dump them here onto your other page. Now, one of the things you'll notice, they are all needing updating, so we'll go to View, Update All. Then you can just pull them around. The default with this is to not have drawing titles on them, but that's okay. There we go. So that's another way to do multiple viewports. Super quick, super easy. Let's take a pause now and let's actually see how some of this works with a set. So let's take a look at a set. I have actually two versions of it here. These two sets are nearly identical, with the exception that one of them, this one, was made using the wall tool. The wall tool, as I'd mentioned previously, creates not just the shapes, but it creates what's called a hybrid symbol, which means that if you're looking at it in most any camera view, it looks exactly like you would expect. If you are looking at it from the top, it has a very simplified look to it, and it puts in all the door openings and all that kind of stuff for you. So that's great. But a lot of times you're not using the wall tool. So this one was drawn with just the regular, all your regular basic tools. That's the only difference, because I do want you to see the difference when we get to ground plans between using a hybrid symbol and using just regular polygons to create your sets. So let's go ahead and start with this one. This is the one with just regular polygons. So what we'll do is let's take a front elevation of this. Let's go to Create Viewport. And we want to see this from the front. And we will create it on, let's create a new sheet layer. We'll call this Set 1. We'll call that Sheet 2, Set 1. Okay. And we'll do this in, 1/4 inch is fine. And we will render this in hidden line. I like hidden line for a lot of my early renderings. Let's click OK and see what we got. So this needs to be updated. And there we go. That is the front elevation. Pretty simple. Let's take a look at copy, paste. Let's take a look at the ground plan. So instead of looking at it from the front, let's look at it from the top. And there's our ground plan. Now again, we would want to line this up, so I'll snap it to there, and then hold Shift and drag it straight down so that they're lined up and nice and tidy. Now, something you'll see for a ground plan, this crown molding is really kind of getting in the way. I don't want to have to see that crown molding in my ground plan because it's unclear as to what space is actually available on the ground. So one of the things you can do is actually edit all your what classes and what layers are actually visible in your viewport. So For example, on this one, when I was creating this file, I went ahead and I made, let's take a look at it. I went ahead and I made all my moldings their own class so that I can toggle moldings on and off. So if we were down here, I can just turn off the moldings if I wanted to, or I can turn off the doors for whatever reason. Now, when I created my viewport, let's jump back over. Over here, you'll see layers and classes. So if you click classes, you can elect which classes you wish to actually see in this viewport. So I want to turn off everything that is, let's say I want to turn off moldings and I want to turn off doors. Okay. There we go. That's a much cleaner ground plan. Now, because this is not a hybrid symbol, we have to go in and we have to add the door swings and things like that. But that's super easy. And it's similar to some exercises we did in class. So we right click, edit annotations, or you can edit crop. Right clicking on the object is essentially brings up the same options as just double clicking. So let's edit annotations. So let's get rid of this title. I don't want that there. And then we would go ahead and we could draw in our doors. This is 28 inches. And then we draw our little arc. And we can continue that for this door as well. And that gives us a nice, clean ground plan. The other option, if you are using the wall tool to create your walls, that's going to give you a different look, and you don't have to go in and do all of the drawing the doors and things like that in there. The nice thing about a hybrid symbol or using the wall tool is that, again, it's easier to have your changes reflected in your viewports. So if we were to take a viewport of this one, view, create viewport, and we want it to be a top view, top plan, 1/4 inch is fine, and we'll dump it on to set 2. So you'll see this one already has the doors in there. It's just much cleaner. We would want to go in and just turn off temporarily all of your moldings. And I'll go in, get rid of this drawing title. And there is our ground plan. Yeah, I did the door the other way. Doesn't matter. The point being, if you're using the wall tool, it's going to do a lot of this and make your ground plans a little easier. But you also have less flexibility in certain ways. So that is how you get a front elevation and your ground plan using viewports. Another thing you can do is custom viewports. So let's go back to our design layer. Let's take a look at this. And let's say instead of a straight front elevation, I want to get the camera in right here. And I want this to be in perspective. So I can set up my camera however I want it. And then I can just snap a picture. So from here, I'll go to View, Create Viewport, and this will be Custom View. So that then means it will spit it out in whatever view we're currently in. We'll leave it at 1/4 inch. It's going to the right place. Let's just pull it off of there. And there you'll see is our viewport. Update. So right now, what we're getting is the shaded rendering. It's not the best. It comes out a little clunky. It comes out a little chunky in a viewport. So if I'm doing something in perspective, we can change the rendering on any of these. So right now it is set as shaded. That's the background render. So if we were to just do wireframe, it would look like that. If we were to do final quality renderworks, it needs to update. It takes a little bit. So that's a much finer finish, but I don't have any textures or anything on here, so it's really not going to show a lot. But again, you lose some definition in the corners and such. So you can actually you can stack the visualizations on top of each other. So here we have Final Quality Renderworks. And then we can also do a foreground render. So that was our background, is this. We could do another rendering on top of it. Let's just do Hidden Line. And that gives you a much cleaner, sharper image. So you can play with your rendering styles over here in the object info. You can change the rendering on all of these. Same thing if I wanted this one to be, let's see, let's do Final Quality Renderworks and with a foreground of Hidden Line as well. Update. That gives us that look. So that is rendering and using perspective. Again, if we didn't have room for all of these on the same plate, do a couple things. We could just add a new sheet. We can also change our scale on here. If we're looking at it, we want to squeeze some more on, you can drop this down and change the scale right on here. And that's pretty much it. That is the basics of setting up viewports. The important things to note, keep your drawings organized. Make sure that your lines are clean. Use a title block. Take the time just to set it up. And then what you can actually do is just take it and copy it from one to another. And it'll drop right into this sheet too. So that's really sort of the basic of viewports. For the sake of this video, I really just want you to understand what viewports are and how we can use those to present our drawings in a really clean, efficient manner. I think that's the big takeaway, is to make sure that your drawings are clean, that they're not in there just kind of all over the place. Make sure that your lines line up. Make sure that you leave room for dimensions, and make sure that you label everything appropriately so that people know what scale they're looking at, so that people don't get lost trying to read through your drawings. But that is sort of the basics of it. Next video, we're going to be talking about section viewports a little bit more, which we use a lot actually. We use it to create elevations. We use it to create sections. So we'll take a look at that. It's just another way to do what we've been doing. It's just another way to slice your work apart and take a look at it from the side. So we will touch on that next week. But that is about it for now. Thanks so much. We will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.